The latest reactionary move of the British government is to create this filter so that you have to upload, like you have to like use a picture of yourself to verify that you're over 18 to access porn in the UK. And I just, with Corbyn forming a new party and announcing it this week, which you'll be talking about later, Tim, I feel like, I don't know if you've seen any of Corbyn's stuff since he's announced it, but I think he's being very clear about having learned some lessons. Like he's definitely going to be going hard on the meme game, like Mamdani, and he's said that like the Labour Party is too centralized, and this new thing is way more like horizontal and democratic, and all this stuff. But yeah, I think he should come out as the pro gooning candidate. I think this could be his big Instagram reels, TikTok, YouTube shorts win, where he's just saying like the British people deserve to goon. We could even like we ended up with that edit of like all the like baselines with Kamala saying "do not come" and Trump saying "I'm gonna come." Bill Gates came, Mark Zuckerberg came. Like we're gonna end up with exactly that, but it's gonna be like Keir Starmer saying like "gooning is illegal, ban gooning," and Corbyn saying like "we have a right to goon."
Yeah, I feel like because there's like which is it? There's a bunch of football fans call themselves goons, right? There's like Arsenal fans are the Gunners, and then they call themselves the Gooners or just Goons. Because of that. Yeah, because this whole thing reminded me of last time where there was those football chant kind of things that the people were chanting for Corbyn. There was like the Corbyn, no surrender, 4-day weekend, and 3-day bender.
Oh, the 4-day weekend one. Yeah.
It's like there's gonna be like an amazing 3-day gooner football
3-day goon sesh Corbyn.
Yeah. Corbyn, no surrender, 4-day week, and a 3-day boot gooner. I don't know.
Yeah, no, Arsenal will come out as in full support of Jeremy Corbyn. They're already red. They're the Gooners. Yeah. It's happening. It's Red Planet. It's Tim's birthday, and that's exciting. Yay! And I'm going to ask Tim a special birthday question. I'm just kidding. It's the same question as every week. What's the most base thing you did this week, Tim?
Not much at all, really. I was just working pretty solidly. So maybe just being a little birthday boy. Surviving another year on planet Earth, for better or worse, is my.
That's pretty based.
Yeah, that's the best I did this week. What about yourself?
I'm bestowing you one coupon for no based things this week as a birthday present.
Free pass.
What did I do? It was Trans Pride yesterday. It was nice to go down and just be around people, to march, and like it was over 100,000 people. I haven't put a news story for it, but because we're keeping the news fairly tight today. But I just like it was cool. Like the march went to different places, had little stops for speeches, and then went into the park, and we just like completely occupied St. James's Park for like hours and hours. And it was just kind of a picnicky vibe. But I'm kind of like, this is a nice progression. Like it's still fundamentally just an A to B march, but it's cool that like we stopped in different spots and there were speeches there, so there's a bit of discussion, and then we get to another place and we're all just hanging out. Like it's not an assembly by any means, but it just felt nice that they kind of evolved from the I don't know. Didn't feel strictly like the same thing we always have, which is like people gather in just Trafalgar Square and then go to the other end of literally the other end of the street, which is Parliament Square, and then just have some speeches and go home. That, and there was an immigration raid around the corner from me on Monday that sucked really bad. It was like the police set up a sting operation basically where they had they'd gone to this place where a lot of day laborers like hang about looking for work, and like it honestly, in this sense, it was very similar to the instigating thing for the LA riots, but like obviously nothing really kicked off like that. You would have heard about it if there'd been like serious like clashes. There were just like tons and tons and tons of cops, bunch of unmarked vans, which always like really upsets me how like used to unmarked police vehicles Londoners have gotten really, really fast. Um,
Mm,
and yeah, we just didn't have the numbers. So like it was just us, a few anti-immigration raid people, and tons of cops, and them just like grilling one delivery like Uber rider. It was a bit fucked.
yeah.
It's a bit of a bummer. It was good to get down there. I encourage people to get in touch with, your local anti-immigration raid networks. A lot of them just have Instagram accounts at this point, and just follow them. And then like when there's something going on, it might be around the corner from you, as it was with me this week. And if more people follow them, next time this kind of thing happens, it could,
Yeah. Yeah.
get stopped. Um, yeah, that's my base things this week.
Mm, good. All right. Well, we want to know what kind of base things you've been doing. So yeah, so if you're listening and you've got something that is pretty base that you want to tell us about, you can message us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, or send us an email to based@redplanetshow.com. Include your name and pronouns if you're cool with that, and we may shout it out in a later episode. But for now, let's get into the news. So, yeah, why don't you fill us in on what's going on in the UK at the moment with migrants?
Yeah, so as I said, the situation with the thing around the corner from me wasn't anything special. But like there have been, we've been covering this for a couple of weeks. Like there have been, I think Mule described them as attempted pogroms, and that's like honestly a pretty accurate description. We saw like last year in the summer, like very literally, like people were setting fire to these accommodations where refugees and asylum seekers stay, and basically like actually I think it happened in Northern Ireland as well, like earlier this year. Um, it's a similar situation. A bunch of fash are just going to different hotels. A bunch of fash are just going to different hotels where refugees and asylum seekers are being housed. It's like this constant thing where the papers are pointing to the hotels and saying that they're like luxury. Like I think on Thursday morning, I saw the Sun, fuck the Sun, saying like it's a 4-star fiasco was their front page, like highlighting it's like a 4-star hotel, as if that's like it's not actually like a paradise resort with a spa or whatever. And if it is,
Yeah.
like that's a good sign that we are giving to people who arrive in our country about like what our country can be like. Wow,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
nice, like if people are getting a complimentary massage, fucking great. I honestly support that. And I also support all the guys who are opposing this,
Mm.
getting a complimentary massage and a resort stay and whatever. Like this is like there's enough for everybody, and it's not the fucking migrants taking it. But this is the repeated flavor of it. And so there's now been um I think 2 protests at the Epping Bell Hotel. One at the what is it, Canary Wharf Britannia Hotel. It's another Britannia Hotel that is in Leeds, but it's the same name. That's also had a protest. And bizarrely for me, there's one of the Bell Hotel in Norwich as well, which like I've been to that hotel. I grew up in Norwich. Um, yeah, like this isn't a large number of people doing this, and so far the violence has not reached the pitch that it did last year or earlier this year in Northern Ireland. Hopefully it stays that way. I think that like the anti-fash counter protesters have been quite outnumbered every time so far. So like this is another call out to like please get involved in like counter demoing this stuff. To like today there was one. I'm not sure of the numbers yet, so I might include that in talking about that next week. Yeah. Basically, yeah, like only stronger anti-fascist presence can like shut down any violence that these fascists are going to try and do. All in all, it's like 1,000 people across these protests,
Mm.
maybe two, but like I doubt it. It would be like barely. Um, and the Home Office is responding by trying to chase like the far right policy on migrants and saying like we're going to toughen things up and make things like
Yeah.
stricter to appease like 1,000 people. And it's crazy to me because
Yeah.
like Trans Pride yesterday was 100,000 people. I'm just like the government is making it actively worse for us. And this like manufacturing of consent by like highlighting the fash protesters and then saying like look how angry they are, look at these normal people like you who are angry, rather than like What about the migrants being angry? I bet they're fucking angry. They've come to a new country to seek safety, and this is happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It's wild. Yeah, and if I think if there's like one thing we've seen from similar things where it's like, okay, you've got these reactionary protests that are, um, like fundamentally just like founded on fucking brainworms, right? Um, if the government chases them as voters and like kind of like adopt some of their positions, they're not going to be satisfied and be like, oh yeah, cool,
No, of
like the
course not.
government's decided that they're going to let in fewer migrants, we can all go home and give the sun out.
Yeah.
Like, no, they will
Like
just become emboldened. And
like the turfs, like the week after the Supreme Court and the HRC stuff came out, were literally like, Keir Starmer is endangering women by not doing enough to deal with, transgender people. It's like, okay, this is, yeah. But it's, I don't know. I think they make the moves when I think the ruling class, I think the government, like, makes the moves when they want to make the moves. It's definitely, there's like a tight synchronicity between like the British media and government in terms of how the media like focuses on each thing, as they know moves are coming up in the British Parliament, so that they like create a fever pitch around it, and then it, like, when a change is made legally, it looks like the government is responding to something publicly, but they've been whipping up further the whole time. Yeah. Anyway, exactly. So that's annoying. And remember, when you see people talking about, look how many of these rioters there are, just point out how many Palestine protesters there have been, and that we're still participating in the genocide in Gaza. Like, that's all you need to say. But Tim, why don't you tell us about some good news in the UK?
Yeah, so we've talked about this a little bit over the last couple of weeks because it's all been kind of starting to form together. But Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana are forming a new political party to challenge Labour's centrism and reform UK's right-wing populism. So so the party that is currently nameless, unless something's come out just in the last day or so, but as far as I know, they don't have a name so far. It's they're gonna focus on wealth redistribution, anti-austerity, and anti-war policies, positioning themselves as a grassroots democratic alternative. Which, I mean, I think is very like, it's, if there's a time for a party like this to emerge in the UK, it's now, and so Corbyn,
it's absolutely huge. It's absolutely huge. Like, I think that there's been like 500,000 signups, but in the first day there were already 90,000. Like, I think they overtook the Greens membership in a day, and like they're proposing a coalition with the Greens, so the coalition would already be more popular than anything else, and would be like third spot immediately.
Yeah, which is wild. But yeah, Corbyn criticized Labour as top down and controlled by freaks, which is like something that, like,
it's so real.
It's so real, yeah. And I feel like, we saw this in the USA with like Tim Walz at that moment where he was like, these guys are freaks, and it's something that we're definitely like, I mean, a lot of others down here have been saying as well. It's like, when you look at like our ruling coalition at the moment, like, these guys are objectively freaks. And it's like every week they will come out with like some new scandal or corruption thing. And it's just like these, like, if you are a working class person and you think you have something in common with them, you are wrong. Like,
there was I think it was the front page of the Daily Mail I saw this week, where Wes Streeting was like, I won't bend to militant doctors, like massive letters, because the doctors are having a strike. And I was just like, who sees this and is like, yeah, fuck those doctors, they only keep us alive.
We've had similar things over here with like nurses and teachers and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, like, trying to reframe them as if they're like, these kind of like, like a militant guerrilla kind of like terrorists or whatever. And it's like, no, these are early childhood educators. So party aims to tackle child poverty, corporate greed, and military spending while opposing Israel's war on Gaza, which I think is all stuff that is very kind of like instantly positions that people can see. And like, I think average people see these positions and just be like, yeah, like straight off the bat, yeah. Like, when you look at some positions from Labour and, even like down in New Zealand, like our Labour Party and stuff, you look at their positions sometimes and you're just like, you guys aren't even telling us what you actually believe in or what you want to do. Like, you're not giving us a vision for what you want to do. You're not selling us a vision for the future of our country or whatever. Like
I think that like the liberal apparatus, like in all these parties, had so much control, and like any left elements were like, it's okay, we're still steering it in a direction that's overall leftist, so it's worth staying in this because it's a popular party. Like the Labour Party is huge in the UK and New Zealand, like similarly, and then like as the walls have been like going up and the empire has been collapsing, we're just like that apparatus has like seized these parties really, really tightly and purged the left out completely. It's like, it's so bizarre to see.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things where it's like sometimes people will assume they know those parties' positions, like they'll be like, "Oh yeah, Labour, of course they would agree with this," and then when pushed on it, they'll actually be like, "I don't know," or like they will, when forced to substantiate, when you really put, like there was down here, we had a Labour politician, Penny Henare, the other day, who got pressed on, what Labour feels about like Gaza and stuff, and he just did this like really wormy thing about like how it's not on individual politicians to say, and that like all this kind of stuff, and it's just like, yeah, no, like I mean, like if you really wanted, even if just cynically, to get votes right now, you could just jump in there and be like, yeah, like, okay, we need to do something about this. This is what I believe or whatever. But they can't even do that, So while you would assume that like a relatively popular left party or, left party would hold those views, I think, both here and in the UK and Australia and stuff, when you really push them for it, often they're holding tighter to the levers of power than they are to any kind of like progressive ideas.
Yeah, so, because they don't have any answers at all, but they just, if they let go of the levers, like someone else might take them who might have the wrong answer, and that would be worse. And it's just like any answer would be good right now. You're just copying the right.
Yeah, exactly. So so if we're saying signups should probably hit 500 per minute with an inaugural conference planned for autumn 2024 to finalize policies. The party could impact 2026 local elections, particularly in left-leaning urban areas like London. But 500 per minute is just like wild. So even a small vote share could split the left. So weakening Labour in tight races. So Corbyn's group of pro-Gaza independent MPs may form the party's core, though ex-Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell has not yet joined. So Sultana was suspended from Labour for opposing the two-child benefit cap, reflecting growing left-wing dissent. Well, Corbyn was expelled under Starmer, but then won re-election as an independent, signaling his enduring grassroots appeal. And I think that's the thing, right? It's both him and Sultana. It's like these people, both of them have famously opposed things that are, like directly of interest to issues, like they've been on the side of the working class on both of these things that they were famously expelled for. Whereas you could, like, a lot of people will they'll try and make out like, oh, but like Labour's always on the side of the people or anything like that. It's like, well, what happens when you really confront them with a party that is like that has actual grassroots traction, not because they say things, but because they have just like a really proven track record of like, these people have been on like our side, on the right side this whole time. And I think that genuinely can trump a lot of rhetoric and even, to some extent, like money and media power and all that kind of stuff. I
mean, Corbyn had the Labour Party working actively against him in 2017. Like this is how sinister it got. They were feeding him fake ads so that he thought that the campaign ads he wanted were running, and they were running different ones. Like that, that intensely they were working against him, and he still only lost by like 2,000 votes.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
He is a popular politician.
Yeah. And he's like anytime a video pops up of him, it's like people, I think, like these like candid videos of him, and even I've had friends that have like just met him and like recorded little videos and things like that, and they've said that it's just like he is that guy. Like there are politicians that are have similar platforms that eventually kind of like what we've seen kind of like with AOC and stuff, where they kind of become part of the system and they just kind of lose their radical edge. And I mean, obviously it's like electoralism is just like a very small part of like of what we can do politically or whatever. But yeah, he's just been the guy for years. It's consistently been basically, I mean, like I feel like a lot of time he's saying the things that I would say in his positions. Like,
I think people forget what a position like the socialist, explicitly socialist parties in the UK were in, because like the SWP is now just notorious for being like they defended an abusive top activist. That's like all they're known for. But it's like China Mieville was in the SWP, like everyone was in the SWP. And then like it had a real power, and a lot of socialist parties have had real power in the UK until actually fairly recently, like with New Labour pushing, like Blair pushing in one direction, and like leftist like infighting in the neoliberal like peacetime or relative peacetime, just like collapsing everything.
It's interesting to see. We'll obviously keep updating on this. It is wild to think that Corbyn's been so close before, and when you think about like, even though there is a limit to what like people can achieve in Parliament, I do think that if he had become Prime Minister way back when, we would be living in a very different world right now.
We'd be able to access porn without VPN, I'll say that. That's number one. Day one changes from Prime Minister Corbyn.
Society already would have collapsed from just the gooning. It would be 28 years later, but just gooning related.
The streets run milky all over Brighton.
Yeah. Just England just completely cut off from the rest of the world. But yeah.
We're having a note from our producer that we should stop talking about this now.
Yeah. All right. Well, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what is happening in Gaza right now?
Well, the immediate thing to say, I'm sure everyone is already aware of this, but the immediate thing to say what's happening in Gaza right now is that everyone is being starved. Children are dying. The obviousness of this being our 21st century Holocaust is more apparent every day, with every image of a parent who is trapped in this open air prison holding their starving child. We've known this for a long time. We've known it was genocide. We've known it was like a plan of complete eradication, that this isn't a war, that this is about destroying Palestine and Palestinians. And yeah, this week a tipping point has been reached with the amount of supplies available, and with obviously Israel blockading supplies. Another boat in the Freedom Flotilla has attempted to reach Gaza. It has also been seized. I've been a bit conflicted seeing like all eyes on the Handala. All eyes on like the starving Palestinians. Like it's important that like people are trying to get through. But we've already seen what's happened with the first boat, and the same thing's happening with the second boat. So I thought I would highlight some of the escalation that's been going on in Palestine related to resistance, because like obviously people aren't standing for this shit, and things are starting to take a turn. So in Egypt, this was reported on Instagram by Palestine Action Tunisia. Some Egyptian youth have seized like a security checkpoint and detained the police working there, demanding reopening of the Rafah crossing. We will report next week what like comes out of that. This isn't like so much it's to do with activists. So we've expressed already criticism of the prescription of Palestine Action on this show. We're not endorsing that anyone supports the group itself, because it is a prescribed group in the UK, but for the record, it's a stupid prescription. And the UN agrees with us. So a UN rights chief, Volker Turk, says the Home Office prescription restricts right to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly. Palestine Action is a direct action group that has never, as any kind of political action, like targeted a person, only property, and, in protest, trying to stop a genocide that is unfolding before our eyes. It is the first peaceful direct action group of any kind, actually, but the first peaceful direct action group to be prescribed as a terrorist organization. I know we say this every week since the prescription, but they've put them in the same category as like the neo-Nazi like murder cults, like Order of the 10 Angles or whatever it's called, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. Like, this is the same category they're using for a direct action group that's spray painted on a plane. Okay. So lastly, something that's been done by this dangerous terrorist group is Palestine Action Deutschland soaked the offices of General Association of German Insurance and Leipziger Strasse, Berlin, who are both associated with Elbit Systems, one of Israel's largest weapon suppliers. Painted them all over in red to symbolize the blood on their hands and offices and everywhere. So that's the situation of Palestine Action related resistance going on, and also the Egyptian youths who have seized the security checkpoint at the Rafah crossing. Tim, why don't you tell us really quickly about Lebanon?
Okay, cool. Just a quick little one. This is actually it's still related to kind of Palestine stuff, but Georges Abdallah has been freed. So he's a Lebanese Marxist and pro-Palestinian militant imprisoned in France for over 40 years. He's finally released and returned to Lebanon on July 25th, greeted by massive crowds in Beirut. So he praised the martyrs, honored Hezbollah's late leader Hassan Nasrallah, and declared resistance is freedom, urging continued support for Gaza against Israel's genocide. So he's a former PFLP member and founder of the Lebanese Armed Revolutionary Factions. He was convicted for the 1982 assassinations of a US military attaché and an Israeli diplomat in Paris. So despite completing his minimum sentence in 1999, France repeatedly denied parole, allegedly under US pressure, until a court finally ordered his release and deportation in 2024. So his case highlights Western possession of anti-colonial fighters as he returns to a region still resisting US-Israeli domination. Like, that's wild. Like, he's been locked up for 40 years and he's coming back home thinking like, like the job is still not done. Like,
still going on and nothing changed.
Yeah. So but it is, great to see a person like him freed after, obviously still being imprisoned under pressure from the same people that are still attacking his country and his people, and basically destabilizing the entire region. So so that is all the news for this week. A quick little reminder, if you like what we do, jump on our Patreon. You can support us there. There's a couple different tiers for whatever you want to give.
It's patreon.com/red_planet if you want to do that immediately.
Yeah, it sure is. That's it. But are we ready to have a little chat to our guest? Cool.
Okay, so our guest this week is someone who you may know if you've watched my YouTube channel for a while. We made a video together about the Matrix sequels. It was very good. You should watch it. Just to generally tell us about how it feels being in America and being a communist right now, as well as more specifically about Seattle. It's Sarah Zedig from the YouTube channel Let's Talk About Stuff with Sarah Zedig. Hi, Sarah.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Hey.
Yes.
Love
your haircut.
Thank you.
So you're going to tell us, you're going to educate us, the most privileged by being not Yankees, the most oppressed people in the entire world, what it's like being a Yankee. How's it feeling these days in the land of the free?
No one on planet Earth has it worse than us. That's incorrect.
You could, well, okay, there's you and then there's you, right? Because there's like New York Times writers, New York Times editors, like they surely have it the worst of anyone.
Yeah, they're having a rough time right now because people are being really mean to them on Blue Sky. That's why it's really important.
Militants.
Yeah, that's why it's really important that we censor the free press and eradicate free speech, just to get rid of these annoying posters on the internet. So yeah, I live in Seattle. I have done since 2020. I won't say that I am. I haven't been like super in the weeds as far as housing organizing here, but I have done my fair share and been paying attention. I live in a affordable housing unit that is subsidized by the government, and over the last few years, the people who own this property, or the company that owns this property, have been trying to raise rents, and we organized against them because there were a lot of outstanding issues that they were not addressing. And we organized against them, and we got them to stop raising the rents for a little while. They've addressed a lot of the issues in the eyes of the city, and now they're raising the rents. But they're not. It's not as bad as it could have been. And that's sort of been my entry point into the situation in Seattle, which is very strange. This place is a little bit strange.
Yeah, I've noticed. I have a few friends in Seattle. One day when Trump lifts the ban on beautiful women coming into the country, I will come visit Seattle and finally see so many friends in real life and high five them all. But yeah, I get the impression it's a bit peculiar. Like I think I messaged you the other day to ask, like, you want to chat about what it's like being in America, and you were immediately kind of like, okay, but I'm in Seattle, like, which is a different thing slightly.
Yes.
Yeah, say more on that, like just the kind of general. Yeah, I don't know. Can you explain the difference?
Well, the place to start is that in the November 2024 election, when basically everywhere in the country swung further right, Washington State was one of the only places that swung further left. We basically everything good that was on the ballot at that point won with flying colors. We elected Alexis Mercedes Rink to the Seattle City Council, who is now like the lone progressive that's been trading that role back and forth, and we can get into that because there's some hilarious chicanery going on with the Seattle City Council right now. There was several wealth taxes to fund social housing that occurred consistently over the last few years. There has been a lot of energy on the ground towards I don't want to say socialist goals, because the political atmosphere here is unbelievable. I went to Seattle Pride this year, and it's great. Seattle Pride, rather than Seattle Trans Pride, I should say. Trans Pride is a different thing. It's set in an amphitheater that's in this big park, volunteer park, and it is like booths and tables where there are people, you know, the usual sort of thing, like trans small businesses selling baubles and things, and there's like comics and stuff like that. But there's also a lot of organizing. Like there are people with tenants' rights organizations. It was a masks mandated event, and there were a lot of people educating about public health. And Alexis Mercedes Rink was there giving a speech in favor of trans people, and
it would be a wild move to do anything else.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. But it's cool to have her there. And the other thing is that every time I've been there, walking around at the sort of junctures between all these tables are representatives of every single one of Seattle's approximately 50 different communist socialist splinter groups. There were like 5 different newspapers, people carrying different like communist flags, and everybody's like, "Are you getting organized? Are you doing this?" And it's really hard to know which ones are serious and which ones are not.
Yeah.
We
have a similar problem here, but they're usually older people. There's been a wave of them recently, but it always does the same thing where you've heard like Red Fight Back are around for a while. You're like, oh, what are they up to? And you find out that like one of them was super transphobic, and then the process around it just destroyed the whole org. Or like, oh, you're being given a new newspaper and it's Counterfire, but then like within 2 weeks you hear something about them. The best one is like the lineage of if people remember from content around the conspiracy left that I made, Jyoti Bra is like in the like dynastic family of like splinter groups of communist parties in the UK, because there was the Communist Party CPGB for Communist Party of Great Britain, and there was a CPGB ML, and then this splintered as well. It's like it's done it 10 trillion times.
Yeah, there's a lot of that here, and the frustrating thing is that none of them seem to be particularly interested in actually doing electoralism. I am a skeptic of electoralism in a lot of ways, and I think the emphasis on the national elections is totally misplaced energy in a number of ways. But on the local level and the city level, time and time again, like elections here and ballot initiatives especially make a huge difference. And that sort of gets us to the Seattle City Council as it stands. So there are 9 seats in the Seattle City Council. A little bit of history. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, we were sort of at the peak of a I won't say aggressively progressive city council, but certainly one that was much more so. We had Kshama Sawant, who was a socialist alternative party member, and she was great. She pushed for and helped win a lot of things like the $20 minimum wage, the Uber gig driver pay minimums and various protections. And throughout the George Floyd uprisings, she was consistently on the side of protesters. When there were attempts, when it was really like hot and people were, the cops were just sort of blasting everybody, she unlocked the doors of the I think it was the council building and let protesters occupy it there to have their voices heard. And as a result of the various other members of the city council being fairly more progressive and Kshama Sawant being particularly so, they got eviction moratoriums passed that made it basically impossible for landlords to evict anybody for I think until 2022. It lasted a while. They sort of fizzled out in a number of ways, but there were pledges to defund the police and build more social housing and stuff like that. And then the 2020 election happened. Joe Biden won, and this corresponded with, just across the nation, a sort of vacuuming up of all of the energy of the George Floyd uprisings, where the Democratic Party under Biden, their prime directive was cut it out with all of this anti-cop crap, cut it out with all of this stuff. We're gonna restore order, and by order I mean we're just gonna pretend that nothing has happened since 2008, basically. And
as we remember, it won. So that's the important thing.
Yeah, and it's I'm very firmly of the mind that everything that Trump is doing right now is directly is only possible because of the groundwork that Biden laid.
100%.
Biden did not dismantle. Well, we don't need to go into all of that.
We got some time to chat, but like I think it is important to say that even the act of just resisting the left getting more power, like, necessarily builds authoritarian structures to let the right, when they come in, do exactly what Trump is doing now.
Yeah, and so in that haze, particularly in Seattle, there seemed to be a sort of wool pulling over the eyes of the electorate in a number of ways, where in the aftermath of the George Floyd uprisings, downtown Seattle was sort of left to rot, where a lot of the unhoused population was pushed down there, and then of course made encampments all over the place. And so the cops also basically went on a Capitol strike and refused to do their job. And the corporations basically took this as an invitation to influence public opinion and buy the city council when a number of seats came up in 2023. And it worked. They basically got a bunch of pro-business, pro-landlord city councilors elected to the Seattle City Council, as well as Bruce Harrell as the mayor. All of these people are Democrats, but they are also property owners.
I mean, you didn't say that any of them were like looking for the chemtrails coming out of the pizza parlor or something. So I was like, yeah, these are probably Democrats. They want to like microchip everyone and then shoot them in the head with a gun. Yeah, that sounds like a Democrat. They want to do it because God said so. Oh, that's a Republican for sure.
Yeah. But so this new city council in 2023 came in pretty much explicitly with the mandate to dismantle a number of the progressive protections that were put in place by the previous council. And part of this was sort of enabled by Kshama Sawant, despite being very popular and very successful. She was recalled basically every single year since she was elected in, I think, 2014. And this is a thing that happens with any progressive politician in this city, where they're just constantly opposed. So in 22, I think, or 23, she stepped down as Seattle City Councilor with the hope of saying, like, this stuff is not working. We need to build a national party to unify people, which is like true, but also impossible just to sort of say, like, we're starting a new party. And now she's talking about coming back and doing electoralism in Seattle again. I don't know if she's running for city. She's going to run for city council. I think she was talking about going for mayor in the future. We'll see how that goes. But so there's that, and then another progressive council member, Tammy Morales, stepped down in 2024 because she had been consistently bullied by other members of the council and by the mayor's office. So by all accounts, it is extremely difficult to be a progressive in Seattle when you're actually in office. And I can say from my experiences dealing with the various housing authorities, when our building was late on doing recertifications, basically they have to certify the finances of all of the tenants, do an audit, and make sure nobody is making excessively more than the limit. When they were late on this, the Seattle Housing Commission, I can't remember which one it is, basically told them that the correct way for them to extend the deadline for this process was to issue basically phony eviction notices, saying if you don't go through, make an appointment with the property manager to do this process within the next 40 days, we're allowed to evict you or whatever. This despite the fact that we had done this process twice and they lost the paperwork. They consistently messed up, but the city's position was that, like, the only way forward is to blame the tenant. And that's sort of the general vibe. But the thing is, there is so much there's still so much support for more, like everybody in Seattle knows that housing is too expensive and the city is rapidly outpricing everybody that lives here. So actually last year, or 2 years ago, we voted to create a housing commission to build state-owned government housing, and it was approved by a huge margin. And then this year, because Seattle's political process is ludicrous, it's ludicrous enough that it has its own Wikipedia page, the Seattle process.
Okay.
Just known for pushing things down the road. We love to do commissions and survey communities and do studies and make sure that nobody's going to get mad. And as a result, everything that they try to get built doesn't get built. You know, it's classic kicking the can down the road process. But so we passed this social housing authority, and then the funding mechanism was not part of that. So the funding mechanism for this Seattle Social Housing Authority came up to a vote in February. Off-season election, deliberately set at a time when fewer people turn out to vote. And there were two options. It was Proposition 1A versus 1B. So you vote, basically it's two parts. The first vote is, do you want to approve a tax on in order to fund the social housing authority, yes or no? And then if yes, then there are two options for the funding. So 1A is creating a tax on every business that pays employees in excess of $1 million a year. That would create, I think it was like $50 million a year in perpetuity to fund the social housing authority. And then 1B was, actually, let's just take like $10 million from the existing capital gains tax thing that was already like overburdened to on like funding for schools and libraries and stuff, and let's just use it for that. And the current mayor, Bruce Harrell, and multiple members of the Seattle City Council threw all their weight behind it. All the corporations threw all their weight behind it. And in the final tally, Proposition 1A won by 63% of the vote. And that was 65,000 versus 112,000. So that's not a small turnout for an off-season election. So there's tremendous support. There's tremendous support for this stuff. And when Alexis Mercedes Rink was running in 2025, she was not expected to win, and she won by like 14 points. She won by more votes than I think the current city council president has won in her entire tenure as president. So the current city council has had this mandate to dismantle tenant protections. A couple of years ago, some emails and slideshows leaked from this sort of landlord group that basically said what their goal is to make it so that landlords can give eviction notices with just 2 months as opposed to the current 6 months, or it's rent increases, not eviction notices. Sorry. So right now, if a landlord wants to raise rents, they have to give you 6 months notice before the rent increase, so that you can then investigate and see, like, well, are they violating any number of these other issues that could invalidate their rent increase. They wanted to drop that down to 2 months. There is still a winter and school year eviction moratorium on teachers and students that they wanted to dismantle, which is always
Does that mean while the school year is on, so it's not on during the... Okay.
Yeah. I think there are all sorts of special conditions that make it like it's sort of income limited. It's not universal, but generally speaking, yeah, they can't evict teachers or students during the school year or during the winter, and just to prevent homelessness, prevent people being pushed out into the cold, because it does get cold here in the winters. But so that's been on the docket for a while, and it felt like that was going to be sort of just a foregone conclusion of this city council. But it turned out that this city council is like extraordinarily incompetent. They found the most. I feel like every time I talk about them, I should be playing yakety sax, because here's a for instance. One of the first district councilor, Rob Sacca, he in late last year was campaigning to earmark $2 million in existing city funding to remove a median out front of a preschool that he took his kids to, that he does not go to anymore, but he wanted to take $2 million to remove this small median in this road.
Not in your backyard.
And he actually said it's unsafe and it's trite. And I'm just going to read this quote here. Historically, barriers have been used to exclude, isolate, divide, discriminate against, project power over, subjugate, render less than status to, punish, segregate, humiliate, embarrass, harass, degrade, and so much more.
That is true.
Literally
They're all trying to find the guy that's doing this.
Yeah. More recently, the Trump administration sought to build an enormous wall on the southern border with Mexico. Like, he's literally comparing this median preventing left turns into a preschool with Trump's border wall, and saying like, oh, this is a community thing. More recently, so there's Kathy Moore is another council member who has been the one who is the most pro-business, and it was her agenda. She has consistently kept the Seattle Renters Commission, which is a very recent city body, official body that is meant to be a voice for renters in the state government and city government. They have consistently struggled to get anything appointed because all of the pro-business members of the Seattle City Council just conveniently don't show up to the meetings, and then make it so that they can't vote to get anybody in the office. And then they go and say, look at this, they're so bad at they have such high turnover, they can't do anything. They literally did this like 2 days ago, where they just didn't show up. So very recently, Kathy Moore wanted to had a big idea to get rid of city council's ethics laws. So the biggest problem that this current city council has had is that they are obligated to recuse themselves from a vote if they have conflicting interests. Like several of them are landlords, particularly one who is not a council member anymore, Tanya Wu, who lost her election, and then the person holding their seat stepped down, so she was appointed in that position despite having lost. She's a slumlord. She couldn't vote on any of their attempts to dismantle tenants' protections in Seattle. And they've had this problem since 2023, where every time they have to recuse themselves. So Kathy Moore came out and was like, hey, how about we just change our ethics laws? How about we make it so you just have to disclose? You just have to disclose it.
Just trying to game the meta game. So it's like the general. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding the broad strokes. As we've got a lot of details.
Sorry.
But no. It's fantastic. I just want to make sure I'm on the same general page as well as the specific page. Like Seattle is quite well known as having like very big business interests, and having, Amazon and Starbucks, right? Like billionaires in the backyard, and at the same
Microsoft
time being
is
like,
here. Yeah.
Yep. At the same time being like a massive like trans hotspot, leftist hotspot,
Yes.
migrant solidarity hotspot, all these things. So it sounds like with the city council, like there was this left swing that's being like, they're trying to, the business interests and politics are trying to like push against it quite aggressively now.
Yes.
So there's this sort of
that's
fight
correct.
for the soul of the city council.
Yes, yeah, and just generally, it's weird on a state level. A lot of basically everybody wants to see rent controls and more social housing. There's a big push for basically Medicare for all just in Washington. And that has made moves. I'm not sure where that stands right now, but there was a vote that was very positive in that regard, which is particularly important now as the Trump administration is looking to dismantle Medicaid. And that is a health program where every state partially funds their own Medicaid program, but also relies on federal grants. And so when the federal grants dry up, it's difficult. And Medicaid is income limited, so you have means tested. There's a big push to try to get something that is just more universal in the state. But on the city level in Seattle, there is a long history of businesses pushing in and sort of rigging things against any attempt to make things better. So in this case, Kathy Moore wanted to get rid of these ethics laws or ethics policies, and everybody hated that, and so she stepped down. She stepped down as city council. She was basically bullied out of office. But the hilarious part about that is that she resigned at exactly the right point where there could not be a runoff election to fill her spot. So the current city council gets to appoint her successor, who will get to hold that position for the next year and a half. We love democracy. So there's been a whole there is one person who's a staunch pro-business slumlord that everybody assumes is a foregone conclusion to be this appointee, but they still have to go through a process of interviewing multiple candidates. And there was one particular person that they interviewed, Nilu Jenks, where there is basically she's saying no one on this council has lived experience from Asian, refugee, Muslim, or Middle Eastern communities. And we've never had a Muslim or Middle Eastern person represent this city. And Rob Saka of Get Rid of This Median is the Border Wall fame took offense at this and was like, I'm proud of my immigrant and Muslim background. I'm a Christian. I'm not practicing these days, but I represent you. I am the child of somebody who is an immigrant. So, but I have not lived that experience at all.
I'm getting a strong impression that Rob Sacker is the most important character in every story that contains him. That he is the main character in every room he walks into.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people like that. And there's also let's see. He's just, everybody has been so bad at listening to people. The city council is consistently they open the floor to public comment, and people come in and to sit in the stands, and as soon as anybody says anything, all of the pro-business folks recuse themselves and leave because it's so unruly, and they're just aggressively not paying attention. And then there's the mayor, Bruce Harrell, who came in on this assertion that we're going to fix racist policing in Seattle, and we're going to build or create more capacity for unhoused people so that they're off the streets. And basically what he has done instead is give the SPD infinite money to do whatever they want with no oversight, or very little oversight that actually matters.
That seems like the opposite, the exact opposite thing.
Yeah, and has also done more encampment sweeps than like the last 3 of his predecessors combined. So, yeah, not great. It's just sort of, I get really frustrated talking to certain factions of American voters who are of the mind that the George Floyd uprisings and that political moment, they pushed too far, that people were spooked by defund the police, and we saw that the result of that was lawlessness and unhoused people running through the streets and everything sort of falling to pieces. But I've been here this whole time, and I've seen exactly what happened. We didn't try defunding the police. It was never tried. We just talked about it and passed resolutions, and then the cops threw a fit and stopped doing their job, and then we gave them raises, and they continue to not do their job and act like they're the most punished boys on the planet Earth. And there's it. I think there's a lot of cynicism in a lot of organizing communities here. I've talked to a number of my friends around here who've been more in the trenches than me in certain union issues where there's a lot of discord, and there's a million splinter factions, and it's not very organized, and nobody really seems to have their eye on the ball. But I'm not cynical about the possibility of somebody coming in and really changing things. I think Zoran Mamdani's win in New York City should be a huge wake-up call to cities across this country, because what people really want right now is somebody to give them a vision of the future that is not like punitive, that is not all about extraction or individuality, but is saying we all live here, we all share interests, we're all being put down by these same systems, and we can do something about it. We can make more affordable housing, we can make groceries more affordable, we can deal with the cost of living. We just have to decide to do it. And the overwhelming support for him in New York City, I don't think that is a unique state of affairs in New York. We're primed for very similar things here in Seattle if they would just like. This is my frustration: is that we have all these splinter groups, but nobody seems to be interested in training people to come into these offices, because there's so many of these people are running unopposed, and then everybody acts like it's a foregone conclusion.
It seems like a massive opportunity. I'm kind of curious about I'm not sure I remember exactly what you said earlier about your feeling about national versus local electoralism, but if there were more cities that were having wins like New York, and say there was like a big win, say that Mamdani is the mayor, and then there's another Mamdani in Seattle, and there are more candidates across the nation running like this. Does this? I think the term theory of change has gotten quite old now, but does this relate to your theory of change? Do you see a sort of an electoral local change that is widespread?
I think it is possible. I think it's possible, and it could happen. The challenge is that it's basically impossible for a third party right now to take any sort of systemic power. The Democrats basically have a lock, and everybody's running as Democrats, and there's not really ideological clarity in terms of positions when it comes to these things. Like the parties at this point, they don't mean anything. It feels like they are just sort of organs of a vague something. And so what we're seeing right now is, Mamdani wins in New York City. And this could, if we get a handful of other people in other cities following suit and winning massive victories, we've seen the Democrats do this before, where they basically circle the wagons around those people and try to undermine them and integrate them back into the establishment and sap all that energy away. Like the one thing that the Democrats at large learned from Bernie was that you can make a lot of money from small dollar donations. So they sent out all sorts. They all started doing these mass email campaigns saying, "Will you send me $5 to help support blah blah blah?" And that's a great way.
This is Nancy Pelosi. Good morning.
Yeah.
This is Nancy Pelosi. Donald Trump is holding a gun to the head of a baby, and the baby is America. So please donate $5 right now.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. So I think the risk is the Democrat establishment just continuing to dig its heels in and refusing to change, and not allowing a movement to actually occur. And by that I mean, like, Democrats or the DNC have actively opposed socialist candidates in certain cities and like endorsed functionally, like in some cases, actually Republicans. They've endorsed Republicans over socialists. So as far as a national movement, it's challenging because what banner do you organize under? How do you unify? If there's a movement, it is a movement of economic precarity and the reality of existing in the world as somebody who does not own a house or who is not a member of a wealthy family. And I think there's a lot of potential there. It's just a matter of, can we do it in a way where we avoid another 2020, where somebody like Biden comes in and sucks all the air out of the room and convinces people. I think a lot of that moment was people wanted a return to normal, right? They wanted to go back to being able to say, like, we're not doing Trumpism anymore. We're back to America being land of the free, and I can just go back to my job and live my life in my suburban enclave, and everything will be fine.
There's a new Marvel out, and it's completely nuts.
God's in heaven, all's right with the world.
Yes, yeah, and that is a very powerful force in this country. The desire to not have to give a shit anymore.
Oh yeah, I think throughout the imperial core, this is absolutely vital. Like, it's this convenience politics where like everyone is just meant to be getting their treats, and that's all that matters. And like everything that you need should be available through an app. And any time that like we see it in like the way that interpersonal or community failures tear apart leftist organizing, we see it in the way that like people dip off talking about Palestine, especially like if it'll hurt their career prospects, all sorts of shit like this. Just like, if this would require anything more than a medium hard conversation, it's not getting anywhere with these people.
Yeah. And my frustration is, I think none of this is as hard as it seems. There is this deafening consensus among all the same people who have been spewing this line since Bill Clinton was in office, basically, that there is only the now. There is only the way things have been, and it's basically just trying to maintain the end of history forever, which is a losing proposition. And
history's back, baby.
Yeah, history's back, and it's worse than ever. But you see polls that say people are really supportive of social housing and free education and free healthcare. All of these things are like essential pillars for getting to step zero of actually building a better world. Where right now, if you can't, a lot of people are working for ICE right now who do not want to work for ICE, but have very few other options because they pay well and they give out insurance. And that's the grotesque reality of the United States, is that a lot of the most evil jobs here are the ones that pay the best. And our insurance, our healthcare system is such that it is pay to survive. And it's kind of the same way across the board with housing, with education now. But I think there is so much that's just right on the table that would be so easy to grab if enough people in the right places just tried.
Yeah.
And as far as like on the national level, as far as as elections go, right? Like I don't think, I generally don't believe that Kamala Harris as president would have been that much better than Trump is right now. That's sort of difficult to swallow given the way that Trump has been dismantling so much. I don't think it would have been quite as extreme.
Yeah.
But I don't think that she would have been able to improve. I don't think she would have been interested in improving a lot of these things. And I think she would have been just as interested in expanding our capacity for detaining migrants, because that's been Obama supported that. Like that's been a Democrat line forever. Funding ICE more, putting down protesters, and making it illegal to demonstrate in favor of Palestinians. You know, it's just
absolutely.
And most importantly, I don't think that her administration would have done anything to keep the government insulated from Trump coming into office, to limit his ability to do what he's doing now. I think it would have been just like Biden kicking the can down the road to an inevitable nexus of a decayed political imaginary.
The bourgeois electoral system is going to have the fascist and not the fascist, and those are the two options over and over again. And it's just like, well, in this system, the fascist button will get pushed eventually. Like, not the fascist isn't a good enough other option.
Yeah, and so my hope, as the last 10 years have progressed, it seems like more and more people are aware of this situation, and the economic precarity is affecting more and more people who used to be safe, and they're seeing the failures of the establishment. And there are a lot more people organizing in a lot of different ways. There are now multiple tenant unions in Washington. There's like the Washington State Tenant Union, and then there's the Seattle Tenant Union, which I've the Puget Sound Tenant Union, which I've communicated with more than once, and they helped us out when we were dealing with our landlord stuff. And we have this year election for mayor. Bruce Harrell is up for re-election, and we have someone running against him named Katie Wilson, who is helped start the Transit Writers Union, which helped win a number of funding and taxes in favor of building more public transit in Seattle. And she, I won't say that she is quite a Mamdani. She feels to me a bit more liberal leaning in a number of ways, but she has her head on straight when it comes to housing and transit, which are two of the most important things in terms of like maintaining this city.
Yeah. When you're saying about the like getting us to like step zero of building a better world, like they're two pretty essential things, I think, housing and transit. Do you think that she could get near to step zero?
Certainly nearer. I think as far as healthcare and housing. I mean, we have this social housing authority now that is funded, and they're starting operations proper. They're supposed to start like building. They're doing assessing locations now. They're supposed to start building stuff proper next year. And I will say, this mayoral race, a number of people already endorsed Harrell, and it was sort of assumed that he was going to win. But in the most recent poll, Katie Wilson is ahead. Nobody is happy with Bruce Harrell. He's consistent. I mean, he seems like kind of an asshole. I've read there's been numerous reports of him pushing for a very like macho culture in City Hall that has been like literally chest beating, and there was like the Urbanist had a forum with all of the not the Urbanist, the Stranger, one of our progressive papers here, had a forum with all of the mayoral candidates to just ask them questions and pin them down on their positions. And Bruce Harrell consistently said, like, as far as unhoused people go, other cities aren't doing their part, and our hands are tied, and basically shunting off responsibility for everything. And then they describe also him like slamming his hand down on the table and like starting to shout at other candidates to the point where people at the Stranger had to like shout at him to get him to shut up. So doesn't seem great. Nobody seems to be particularly happy with him, and Katie Wilson seems like she has her head on straight on enough of things to be a lot better than what we have now. And I don't know. It's an exciting sort of nail-biting time in Seattle politics, where we are in need of funding a lot of organs in the long term, and we just elected a mayor or a governor Bob Ferguson, who by all accounts was just going to be an establishment Democrat, and then he just showed up on day one and is like, we need a Department of Government Efficiency for Washington, and he has consistently refused to approve. Yeah, he's consistently refused to approve progressive taxes to fund things. His predecessor even set up a slam dunk wealth tax. That it was the idea was. Bob Ferguson's going to come in and pass this, and he won't even have to take responsibility. He'll just be like, look, this is what was there. If he wants to say he didn't want it, he doesn't have to take credit for it. He can just, be like, it was just there and we didn't have any other options. No, he just threw it in the trash. And it's been a huge upset. And that's just sort of the thing is, so many people are just not reading the room and not seeing the potential that's just laying there on the table, and nobody's happy with Bob Ferguson, and nobody's happy with that. It sort of provided a lightning rod, honestly, where it's very plain to see the people who are doing this to stop progress and the people who actually live and breathe and eat and work in the real world as it exists, and who want to make a difference. And there isn't, as far as I can tell, like a coherent movement in the traditional sense, but there is a desire to be a part of something that pushes in that direction. And
do you think that
somebody, go ahead.
Well, do you think that like Seattle politics is waiting for the right person, the Seattle Mamdani, I guess we were imagining? Would it be receptive to this person? Like, would we have, I don't know, the Puget Sound anarchists writing an article into Organized magazine about how like we can't trust such and such because he's gonna, I don't know, like implement authoritarian free food depots or
I mean, I'm sure
Stalinist free bus rides.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, this is a city that loves its contrarians. There's always going to be people who just don't want to refuse to hear out anybody who falls on the wrong side of the very specific aisle that they are in. But I think broadly speaking, that stuff doesn't hold much weight for most people. And
Good, yeah.
I really do think that the actual, not to steal what the Democrats are saying, but the actual kitchen table issues of just it's so expensive to live in this city, despite the fact that
the actual kitchen table issues, we have to sell the kitchen table because we can't afford rent.
Yeah, right, exactly. That is, I think, an extremely potent message. Everybody is frustrated with these people. Everybody sees the problems and has a general idea of like the very basic solutions that could make their lives easier. If we just got somebody who was willing, like Mamdani, to bully the opposition and not play nice and just say, like, you know, you have conflicts of interest and all you've done is hurt other people for no particular reason. If you get somebody who's willing to stand up and believe in something, I think that's the key, is that so much of American politics over the last 40, 50 years has been dominated by people who don't really believe in much of anything. They're political
100%.
opportunists.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was like
political.
When we think of terms like the military industrial complex, like the way that people can, and public-private partnerships under neoliberalism, the way people can move back and forth between the public and private sector, like includes politics and even includes local politics. Like every time I've talked about local politics around me, like my local MP, Neil Coyle, fucking face drawn on a pink balloon in a cheap suit, right? Like, and his entire life is like lunches with construction lobby people. And it's just like, if ever the incident where he like drunkenly yelled at a Chinese guy came back and he lost his position as an MP, he would absolutely have a comfy job in construction, like, you know, in some construction conglomerate or whatever immediately. Yeah. So it's just like we have a politico-industrial complex as well, where there's just like the back and forth between being in politics, even at the local level, and whatever moneyed interest, which I think like housing, like landlordism and construction of new like super expensive flats seems to be a common theme across like most cities in at least the imperial core, maybe the world today.
Yeah. I think things are positioned to change in a big way. I think the fight in Seattle is over the near future, where you have a lot of homeowners fretting over basically how do we they would protest against this characterization, but how do we prevent more low-income people from having a stable place to live in the city? Right now, like the big win of the Social Housing Authority is that they are explicitly trying to create city-owned housing that is has controlled rent in perpetuity, that is organized with tenants in charge, and that they want to create tremendous capacity and actually make something that works. And with this funding mechanism, it's not going to be like a lot of other. I can't remember the development in Chicago, the famous development in Chicago, that was sort of the death knell of social housing in the United States, because it was deliberately left to be unfunded because people of color.
I know what you mean.
There. Yeah. This Prop 1A gives them a funding mechanism in perpetuity that is very unlikely to go anywhere, because it taxes employers, not employees, the employers who have any employee that they pay more than $1 million. Like at Seattle, there are so many of those. So I think that there's tremendous potential there. And this housing is specifically aimed at people who are.
Wait, no, the thing I was thinking of was Pruitt, Igo, and St. Louis. So I wasn't.
Oh, that's St. Louis. That's St. Louis. Yeah. No,
oh,
that's
okay, but yes, Pruitt, Igo is the thing I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. That was what I was thinking of. But there's been so much housing built in Seattle, and it's nowhere near enough. But there's a lot of affordable housing units, and now especially with this tax levy, there's going to be more in the coming decade. And I think the goal right now, I think for everybody, should be, we've been focused too much on short-term wins in a lot of ways of like, how do we get somebody elected right now to fix all of the problems right now? And then when they don't do that, it's like, well, we failed. And then all the energy leaves the room. I really feel that the goal right now is to be building towards the next 10 years, building this housing and developing a better healthcare system in cities that is not federally dependent necessarily, so that more people can move here, who actually work and live here, who will down the line represent the more progressive electorate. Those are the people that we need to be building towards. And I feel like Seattle is more or less on the right track as far as that's concerned. There are issues, there are roadblocks, there are many frustrations and incompetences and embarrassing episodes, but in the time that I have been here, I've never once felt that it was a lost cause. And that's my feeling on the matter. I think it is.
Maybe we should have you back on periodically to update us about whether those roadblocks are being overcome. We have, I think, time for one question from the audience. Oh no, the same asker is just asked the second one, so it's going to be two, but it's from the same person. Prince Infidel, first of all, wants to know, how do we get people disillusioned with electoralism involved in electoral politics?
That's a great question. I think a lot of it comes down to the people who are running for elections proving that they give a shit. That's one of the things that I think Zoran Mamdani proved, is that he was not saying vote for me because you should vote for me, which has been the Democratic line forever, as long as I've been a voting adult. He was going out and talking to people, and he has like actual policies. He's not just talking about the problems. He's saying this is the problem, and here is how we will deal with it through X, Y, and Z. And he's doing this while talking to people who live in the city and giving them a voice. And I think if you can meet people where they're at, you can get people to think like, okay, maybe it's not a lost cause. And there will always be people who are unwinnable to some extent. But I think if you can get enough people to get you over the line the first time, and you start making some wins, then those people who are disillusioned start seeing, okay, well, this is making my life a little bit better. I like this. And then here comes a conservative running as a Democrat saying, I'm going to dismantle this. Now they have an incentive to vote for the progressive. I think it really is just a long game. If people are disillusioned, it's because they have been made that way by politicians who have been running very, very poor campaigns, and it is up to the next generation of politicians to prove that that's not what they're doing.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that my addition to it would be like, when in my experience of like local politics and trying to get people involved and invested in local politics who are burnt out, because this is like everyone I know is burnt out in electoral politics.
Oh yeah.
But more people are burnt out on national electoral politics than anything else. In order, it's people I know who are the largest groups are people who are burnt out on electoral politics, by which they mean electoral politics plus the news, because like the genocide, trying to organize with other leftists, and then like local politics. Actually, like that's the order of like how common it is. And I think that like you can talk to people provided you have that candidate who is, like Sarah says, like is getting the wins and is demonstrating that they have policies and that they like, you know, like provided you've got something basically good to sell to someone, you can start with the assumption that they are totally checked out of national electoral politics. And like what you're showing them in the world of like local electoralism is like can be just as like completely soul killing to and like hope crushing, but it's all more achievable. Like you can get the wins because it's just all smaller scale, so it is actually more doable out the gate.
It's very doable. There's a lot of there's I've seen so many seemingly impossible things that could never pass on the national level pass with flying colors on the local level. It's really like it's so much easier than you would think. Once you start seeing those wins, it's like, oh boy, wow, everything's.
We here haven't had like good socialist leadership in such a long time, but like I always talk about the first socialist mayor Bermondsey had, who was called Ada Salter, and she was like married to this famous doctor, and people always talk about the doctor, but it's like he was just a doctor during the influenza epidemic. She fucking like debated Lenin at like the Women's International, and she like she changed the flag of Bermondsey to the socialist red standard and banned celebrating the Queen's Jubilee. But she also like she eradicated, like she completely reformed the slums, and like the people who were living there got like brand new fantastic social housing, and she like put exotic plants in all of our parks and expanded our parks with this like beautification public luxury initiative and all this stuff, right? And it's just like that all I always talk about that with people who live locally to try to get them to like, you can imagine something locally changing very rapidly, way more wildly than, you know. But the other question we have before we end is also from Prince Infidel, and it says, what can unelected people do to create more affordable housing?
Yeah, so I would say the first step would be tenant unions, organizing, talking to your neighbors. It depends on where you live. So if you're in the suburbs, there are some challenges to that. There's a lot of districting issues, but I think it comes down to finding there. No matter where you live, there is almost assuredly an organization that is representing tenants and providing support for evictions and stuff like that. Those are going to be the people who will be the base of support for any potential social housing initiatives. And I think as far as getting an unelected person helping to get social housing built anywhere, I think it starts with demonstrating that there is a want and a need and an on-the-ground support, because I think at the end of the day, most politicians are lemmings. They go wherever the people are, and there are exceptions to that, but as social housing becomes more of a real thing, if you can demonstrate that there is a want and a need, then you can find people to support it. It's complicated. I don't think that there is an easy, like, one size fits all solution, but it's something that you build towards over time. And I think the way that starts is by talking to your neighbors and getting to know the people who live where you live and not being isolated. I think right now the biggest problem facing us all everywhere politically is that the current organization of the internet and its infiltration into our lives has made us all individuated and separated and isolated. And the first step to combating that is to know the people who live near you and to not hate everybody who disagrees with you, necessarily, finding common ground. There are a lot of people in my building that I didn't like at first, but who I have come to respect because they are human beings. And if you think about all of the contradictory ways that you have come about your politics, if you're a socialist, you were very likely not born a socialist. You were very likely born into a very liberal world, and you held views that you find today deeply repulsive. And it is from that place that you can start to talk to people and realize that politics, what people believe, it's not something that most people have thought through and arrived at by a series of like Platonic dialogues or Socratic dialogues that they are like, I know my position and it is immutable. A lot of people just haven't met a trans person. A lot of people just haven't met a socialist. And if you just talk to them and you meet them where they are, and you listen to what they have to say and you find some common ground, you would be amazed how quickly people who seem like they should be your enemy in every possible way will start to realize, oh, we're both human beings. Yeah. Once they see that you are willing to fight for them, they're going to be willing to fight for you. Not everybody, not all the time, but some. And that's worth it. That's the fight. That's what it is, in my opinion.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. I think a perfect note to end on. For now, anyway, we'll see if Rob, I've forgotten, is it Saka?
Rob Saka, yeah.
Has torn down any great walls when we if we catch up with you in a bit. But it was so great having you on. Are there any like, you already mentioned some of the tenants unions. Are there any groups that you want to particularly shout out at the end of your appearance on the show?
I guess that's a good question. I guess the Puget Sound Tenants Union is doing a lot of good work. They're sort of overwhelmed. They have been overwhelmed for a while, and I think could use an injection of new members. There's the Transit Writers Union, which has done a lot of work to help get more transit-friendly politicians elected. I don't know. I would say right now, look into the campaign to elect Katie Wilson and see if she's somebody that you agree with. And keep an eye on the Seattle Social Housing Authority, because I think they're doing public forums. They're doing public meetings, and they have one coming up in September that is open to anybody who lives in the area, and that would be a great way to get your voice heard. The more support that they have, the better. Just stuff like that. I think good use of your time if you live in the area. Yeah.
Okay, really cool. Thank you so much for coming on. Lastly, just plug in any of your own stuff that you want to let people know where to find you.
I'm on Blue Sky, HMS No Fun at bluesky.whatever. I'm on Mastodon, Sarah Zedig at shrike.club. Those are the places to find me. I guess you can give me money on Patreon at patreon.com/LTAS or camaraderie.co/Sarah Zedig. That's the places to find me. I do podcasts and video essays and stuff like that. So, cool. Thanks for having me on.
Lovely to have you. Hopefully see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
And I guess that leaves only a few things left to do in the running order of the show. And in no particular order, because I can't remember what the order is. No, I'm pretty sure the first thing is our Patreon. So everyone, hey, we have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/red_planet. The show is made possible by our patrons to, pay for editing, and our producer Conrad, who does a fantastic job, and also to help get these ad documentary finally finished, and hopefully move on to other documentary projects after that if we get more support. So it's important that you share the show. If you're already supporting the show, make sure you let all your friends know about it so they support it too. And if you're not already supporting the show, it's patreon.com/red_planet. We have various different tiers, and we don't go through all of them, but you can go read about them yourself at patreon.com/red_planet. The highest tier, however, gets you a personal thank you on every show, which looks like this. Risk Inverse, thank you for being our sicko tier supporter. It means so much to us. And Tim, where can people find more Tim?
So you can find me on YouTube and Twitch as Conquest of Dread, but you can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky as Dread Conquest. Yeah, I haven't been streaming much for a long time now, but I did see on Steam there is like a tattoo tycoon game coming out soon, and I thought that would be funny. Being a professional tattooist of a million years, it would be a hilarious stream to maybe try that out. It looks like, it's kind of like that kind of like like theme park tycoon Sims kind of vibe, but running a tattoo shop, which would be hilarious, because even before I was tattooing, I was also managing tattoo shops, so I have more experience than most in that area. So yeah, so we might do that once that picks up. But aside from that, I also, if you are into tabletop RPGs and stuff, I've got one of my own that I've been working on for a while now that is about to come out, called Dark RPG. It's like a dark dystopian future, kind of working class fighting these like gigantic corporations. Very just, the kind of stuff we talk about on Red Planet, but slightly fictionalized. That's coming out soon, but you can check it out on Twitter at DarkRPG2000. There will be like a Kickstarter and all this kind of stuff soon. But that's where you can find out my stuff. Soph, what about your own?
All my links are available at linktree.ee/Sophie from Mars. It's linktree.ee/Sophie from Mars. The most important one is Patreon, because that's how I pay the bills. You can find text versions of my essays there. Those go up when I've written them, and then the video version goes up when I've finished making it, and then it comes out later on YouTube. So everything's available early for patrons. I also sometimes have like bonus content about the making of, or like sometimes like a little tangent or something. There's all sorts of stuff where I'm like, I don't know, I feel like it might be a waste, like it might be like people wouldn't really latch onto it on my YouTube channel, but like I think that my patrons might like if I made another video just about my astrophotography, just like a short one, for example. I've got a video essay, like I've got the text for a video essay up already about trans organizing. I'm going to be finishing something about Israel and then getting them both into production to get them, out one after the other coming up. So like there's stuff coming up, and then I'm moving on to like a big project I've been talking about for a while to do with Mad Liberation. And lots to look forward to. Check out patreon.com/Sophie from Mars. Otherwise, we'll see you next week, hopefully with a full complement. We'll have Mule back. Okay.
Yeah, awesome. Hopefully. Cool.
And one more time, happy birthday, Tim.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Right. See you all next week.